Event started. We want to thank each and every one of you for coming out today for this dedication ceremony of Beyer's varsity baseball field. Today we're going to be honoring a 42-year veteran of Beyer High School. Yes, Paul, I know you only worked here 38 years officially as a staff member, but you have not stopped working here since you retired 4 years ago, so that's 42 years. 42 years Paul Cornwell has been dedicated to Beyer Athletics, and we're going to honor him today a little later with a ceremony renaming this field in his honor. There's several people that want to say something or we want to hear from today, and I promise you this ceremony won't be long and we'll get this ball game underway. But I want our superintendent of Modesto City Schools, Ms. Pam, able to come and greet you and say a word or two about Mr. Cornwell.
Thanks, Mr. Park, and thanks to everybody for being here today to see this wonderful dedication for a wonderful man, Mr. Paul Cornwell. When it comes to naming facilities or grounds in Modesto City Schools, we must follow our board policy, which outlines the required criteria. The first is simple. The proposed honoree must be a past or current resident of Stanislaus County. We're good with that, Coach? Yeah. Okay. The second is not so simple. The proposed honoree's contributions to Modesto City Schools must be of an enduring nature and lasting significance. Mr. Paul Cornwell taught and coached at Beyer for nearly all of Beyer's 40-year history. And even in retirement, as Mr. Park said, Mr. Cornwell is still helping to coach our students and keep our coaches appropriately certified. The third piece of criteria for naming facilities or grounds is verifiable evidence of a reasonable level of support for the proposal. This piece normally comes in letters of support from former co-workers or principals, but I want to share with you part of a letter that was submitted by a parent of former students who played baseball under the direction of Mr. Cornwell. They said, "What a man of great integrity. Coach Cornwell's humble attitude, both on and off the field, were so admired by parents and other coaches, as well as the players. His boundless enthusiasm and passion for the game spilled over to the boys he coached as he taught the game, modeled good sportsmanship, encouragement, and fair play." I can't think of another individual more deserving of this honor than Mr. Paul Cornwell. Thank you for your dedication to Modesto City Schools and our students. Thank you.
We've asked a gentleman who has coached with Mr. Cornwell for a number of years, Mr. Mitch Monthey, to come and make a few remarks. Mitch, come on up here and join us, sir.
Paul Cornwell was a longtime Modesto City Schools man. He went to Garrison, started his baseball career at Garrison Elementary, moved on to Roosevelt, where he went through the Bob Nard Baseball School, graduated with honors. I don't know if many of us gone through that program. Went on to Davis High School, where he played for Dick Windemuth. His 2 years as varsity player, he was 2 times named All-League catcher, batted over 400 his career, and his teams won 2 CCC championships. Along with that, he was named MVP his senior season. Those successes landed him a scholarship to Westmont University down in Santa Barbara, where he was a 4-year starter there, and his leadership skills allowed him to be named captain his junior and senior season. He graduated in '71. That was the year he married his lovely wife, Karen. Came up here to Beyer, was hired in 1972, coached with Bob Bandy for the first year at Beyer, and then in '74 he was given the keys to the program. And his record over his 31-year program was 510 wins, 308 losses, for a winning percentage of .600. He won his first CCC title. He won his first CCC title in 1979, and that was the first of 3 in a row. He finished his career with 7 conference titles and 3 trips to 3 times he was subsection champion. Along with that, down in LA, there's a great tournament, the Dole Classic. That's a nationally recognized tournament. Some of the best teams in the country show up there, and Paul had his teams elected to go there twice. A couple things to keep in mind when we think of Paul's legacy here is you look around this field, and the only thing that was here when he started was this backstop. There was no fencing, no dugouts, no trees. So anytime, Connor, you make a bad throw, they had to pick it up in the vineyards. Any throws over the third base side, they were going to the buildings. The place was, if you wanted no dugouts, if you wanted to sit down, you had to bring bleachers or benches out from the locker rooms. You know, one of the main things as coaches that most coaches like to do is when they start a program, they want to leave it in better shape than they got it. And I think we can all agree, Paul's left this program in great position. Congratulations, Paul.
Over the past 42 years, there have been hundreds of young men that Paul has influenced on this very field, and one of those young men is Brandon Fromm, former player. And we're going to ask Brandon to come and say a word or two about his former coach, Mr. Paul Cornwell.
My name is Brandon Fromm, and I had the privilege of playing under Coach Cornwell from 2001 to 2003. And I'm honored to be here at a ceremony like this and to just dedicate this field to him and honor his legacy. So I wanted to say a little something about him, but before we do, behind every great man is an even better woman. And if Karen, you could stand up. Karen Cornwell, I've known her for many, many years. She's one of the most dedicated, loving, caring people. She sacrificed a lot of time with Coach Cornwell so he could be out developing players like myself and developing people. So thank you, Karen, for your sacrifice, your time. As I look out here down this left field line, I think of this kind of situation as ironic. I used to take a knee down here like you guys probably do. And when we took a knee down that left field line after practice or after a game of Coach Cornwell's, we were down there for a long, long time. The late afternoons would turn into early evenings. The sun would go down, and we'd still be out there getting coached by Coach Cornwell. So that the irony I see here is that I have all the time in the world, and you sitting right here for payback. But in all seriousness, when I look back, those meetings down the left field line is when Coach Cornwell did all of his coaching. Coach Cornwell was an amazing coach. We've talked about how nice he's kept this field. But when I think back of those times down there, I look at the bigger picture. Cornwell spent hours and hours and hours down there pouring into us, teaching us lessons that came from the game, but poured over into life. We had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears out here in between the white lines, and Coach Cornwell would take those lessons, apply them to life, and make us better people as a result. Some of the things he taught me personally is how to overcome adversity, how to face it head on, how to set a long-term goal, not expect results right away, chip away at things to get results. He taught me how to be a good teammate. He taught me what commitment was to myself, to my team, and to my family. Coach Cornwell taught us how to win with class. He taught us how to lose with class. He taught us how to be good men and respect our opponents. What I remember about Coach Cornwell is all the good times on the field, but more importantly, he made us all better men to prepare us for life after high school. But on a bigger scale, and not just myself, I quickly realized after my baseball career had ended, I came back to Modesto, and I learned the greater impact that Coach Cornwell had besides just what he did for myself. It's amazing how you go around this big city, but it's so small. It doesn't matter who you talk to for the first time, at least half the time, Coach Cornwell and Beyer Baseball comes up. And everyone has amazing things to say, and they have the same experiences that I had as well. So a couple examples are, when I met my father-in-law for the first time, within a few minutes, we were talking about Beyer Baseball and the lessons he learned from Coach Cornwell. My boss at work, I was nervous to meet him for the first time. It led back to Beyer Baseball and Coach Cornwell and what we both took away from him. I met a man at the gym the other day, a couple minutes into it, Coach Cornwell, Beyer Baseball, and what Coach Cornwell did for his son and how he impacted his life. And even last night, I was out in the front yard with my daughter, and our neighbor came across the street to tell me she wanted to know if I knew that this field was being dedicated to Coach Cornwell today. And I said, well, yeah, I'll be there. And she said, well, my son from Southern California, who's now in the medical field, he called up here to tell me, said I should go because of the impact that Coach Cornwell had on his life. So in closing, I just want to highlight that not only has Coach Cornwell impacted his athletics or his athletes, their lives individually, like I kind of told you, but the sacrifice and the love that he and Mrs. Cornwell have put forth have made Modesto a stronger community through the development of people and players over the 30-plus years. Coach Cornwell, thank you for everything you've done for me, for my family, and for my wife and the community. Thanks.
We've heard a lot of nice things about Mr. Cornwell, but Paul, at this time we want you to come and share with us, will you, sir? Make Mr. Cornwell welcome, will you, Paul? Make him welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you that are here today. As time doesn't allow me to thank each of you individually, I do appreciate each of you for all that you have done for me over the years. I would like to thank my wife, Karen, for 42 plus years of positive support of my teaching and coaching career. Stand up again. As many of you know, this field and school was my second home. Thank you to my two sons, Aaron and Brad, Aaron there and Brad, for sharing me with a second family, Beyer Baseball. Thanks to the people here on the platform, Mitch Munthy, Brandon Fromm, Pam Abel, and Mr. Parks. Thanks to the following group that helped to make this happen: Kathy and Dave Israel, Sandy and Gary Fromm, Chris Campos, Mitch Munthy, Steve Clark, Phil Mastagni's family, and Dan Parks. And I already said again, but I want to mention the school board and superintendent, Pam Abel. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if they didn't vote that. So thank you again. The first year, when Beyer opened in 1972-73, I was assistant varsity coach. The following year in 73-74, I became the head varsity coach. As you look around you today, all we did have was this metal backstop and an open playing field in Modesto. One that the coaches and players and parents and Beyer community, my vision was to build the best playing field in Modesto. One that the coaches, players, parents, and Beyer community would have a stake in and be proud of. I knew that the players and coaches needed to equally take part every day in the upkeep of the field. My philosophy was that when we left each day, as Mr. Munthy said, after practice or a game, the field should be ready to play on. What developed over each year was a pride in our baseball field, how it played and how it looked. Over the years, teams from in town and out of town would come back and play at this facility because of the way it played and looked. Our players knew they were a big part of the reason teams felt this way. They also enjoyed the benefits of playing and practicing on a great field. I want to say thank you to all the past players, coaches, and parents for their contributions, time, money, and hard labor that has helped to make this field what it is today. I would like to give a special thanks to Lee Lawrence for his expertise on field maintenance and hours of labor and upkeep of this field for over 10 years. I was very fortunate to have great assistant coaches over the years that helped build the facilities and were outstanding coaches that always had the players' interests first. Thank you to each one of you. There are 4 I would like to mention that will always have a special meaning to me as a head coach. The first 2 were with me for over 8 years and were a huge part of the reason we made it to sections for the second time and continue to build and upgrade the facilities. That would be Gary Peters and Dale Mead. You two are a big part of why I'm up here today. Thank you. Gary called me last week, I think it was, and said, Paul, I'm sorry, I won't be able to be there. And his excuse was probably the best excuse he'd have. He was heading down to spring training on Monday. So have a good time, Gary. The last two are Steve Clark and Mitch Munthy, who were assistant coaches for me and then took over the program for the next 9 years. They did an excellent job of continuing the Beyer baseball legacy. Plus, they allowed me to come back and be an assistant coach with them for 2 years, for which I'm very thankful. I had a blast. It was kind of nice not having a lot of responsibilities. I've been asked why I coached baseball for 33 years plus 7 years of golf for a total of 40 years of coaching plus. Love of the game and the sports, and the enjoyment of working with young athletes. Teaching and watching the players develop better discipline, teamwork, respect for the game and each other, self-confidence, good ethics, playing by the rules, and good character. I believe these are the same characteristics that people have who are successful in careers and in life. They give back to society in a positive way. Once again, thank you for this great honor.
Karen, would you join us right up here? Suze Wallen, Modesto City School Board member, would you join us up here? We're going to officially rename this field. And Pam Mabel, Superintendent, would you join us right up here, please? And fellas, join us down here at the end. Mitch and Brandon, join us down there. At this time, Paul and Karen, we want to officially dedicate this field in honor of Paul Cornwell and his dedication to Beyer High School, its athletics, its students, its families, 42 years of dedicated service. And Paul, I want you to know, with the approval of the entire Beyer family and with the authorization of the Modesto City School Board, right at this moment, we officially rename Beyer High School's varsity baseball field as Cornwell Field. Let's appreciate him today. Paul is going to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. So as Paul makes his way to the mound, and he told me earlier he thought he'd have trouble making it from the mound to the home plate, but he's going to give it a shot. So he's going to head out there.
Proud, you guys.